Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Taravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So continuing chapter part 2, music towards Godhead, page 27, verses 12, 6 and 7. But those who worship me, giving up all their attached activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditated upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Prita, for them I am the sweet deliverer, the ocean of birth and death. It is 27. No, already 28. I remember this long footnote here at last. Okay, the intelligent man should take up the process of devotion service. Intelligent means you know what is your best self-interest. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. The child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on his bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material resistance. One devotee went, anyway, it's forgotten when he left his body, his world. So a little later, I had a dream, and he came in my dream and he said, well, he didn't say anything, he said all these people to play. And then he told me, then the big ego comes. then I a little later I read for the big ego. Krishna comes at once, riding on his birthday. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee in the material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other paths because the process is easy, natural. The result is the best result. Read it. Verses 12, 5 to 7, encourage everybody to take up the process of devotion service. Now verses 12, 8 to 12 describe this process. So these are the famous verses describing the different possibilities for us. Starting from the best option, but the more rare, the most rare among them. So 12:8, just fix your mind upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and engage all your intelligence in me. Thus, you will live in me always, without a doubt. Through devotional service, the devotee establishes a direct relationship with the Lord. One who is engaged in Lord Krishna's devotional service lives in a direct relationship with the Supreme Lord, so there is no doubt that his position is transcendental from the very beginning. The devotee does not live on the material plane, he lives in Krishna. So this is the highest perfection. When we are attracted spontaneously to Krishna and our mind is always busy with devotional service. But if we cannot be established in this position. So who are the examples in this position? No part. Yeah. Okay. Who was able just to surrender to Krishna on the spot, immediately, in the Krishna's pastimes? One was Maharaja Katwanga. He surrendered to Krishna, just straight away. And the other example, there are many examples, but the other one that comes to mind, the wives of the Brahmanas. You remember when Krishna sent the cowherd boys, and the Brahmanas to get some food, and the Brahmanas ignored them. And then Krishna told them, okay, you go to the wives of the Brahmanas, and they immediately surrendered. Okay, but for us, it might not be possible. So then there is another option. My dear Arjuna, O winner of wealth, if you cannot fix your mind upon me without deviation, then follow the regulative principles of bhakti-yoga. In this way, develop a desire to attain me. So this refers to sadhana bhakti. Two types of bhakti-yoga. In this verse, two different processes of bhakti-yoga are indicated. The first applies to one who has actually developed an attachment for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by transcendental love. And the other is for one who has not developed an attachment for the Supreme Person by transcendental love. For this second class, there are different prescribed rules and regulations one can follow to be ultimately elevated to the stage of attachment to Krishna. Yes. So Vaidhi Bhakti means we perform because these are duty, but we don't necessarily always have affection, strong attachment. But then it will become easier when we develop this attachment. The practice of Bhakti Yoga brings one to the stage of love of God. This love of God is now in a dormant state in everyone's heart. And there, love of God is manifested in different ways, but it is contaminated by material association. So we learn by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, by studying Thakur Sutra, that the soul, the inclination of the soul is love for Krishna. When this inclination is contaminated, it appears, manifests in different forms. Affection for family members, affection for your country, for humankind, for your own body and the mind. So it is the same love for Krishna, but it is contaminated by material association. Now, the heart has to be purified of the material association, and that dormant natural love for Krishna has to be revived. That is the whole process. To practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, one should, under the guidance of an expert spiritual master, follow certain principles One should rise early in the morning, take bath, enter the temple, and offer prayers. Which prayers we offer in the temple? Yes. It's good that you didn't say the samsara prayers, because samsara comes automatically, you don't have to pray. Yes, and then Hare Krishna. Chant Hare Krishna, then collect flowers to offer to the deity. Cook foodstuffs to offer to the deity. For this already we're going to breakfast. Take prasadam and so on. There are various rules and regulations which one should follow, and one should constantly hear Bhagavad-gītā and Śrīmad Bhagavatam from pure devotees. Constantly. That means every day. At least once a day. From pure devotee.
It means proper books.
Yeah.
Was.
Either reading the books or even better, we have nice sangha and we read together. It's even better. Satam prasanga mama vidya samjiva bhavanti fitkanga asana. The Joshua Tashpata Bhagavad-gītā Nishra messages of Krishna become more relishable when they are discussed in a session of devotees. And also in the sadhu sangha, in the session of devotees, then we can learn how to discriminate between material and spiritual. It's very important, because otherwise we might direct our emotion, our affection toward material object. We may think that it's spiritual. We may think it's for Krishna protection. We might be mistaken. It's subtle. Therefore, it's very pleasurable with the devotees. Everybody knows. Whatever you do, even materially speaking, if it's with like-minded people, it's more fun. Therefore, people go to concerts, to the movies, because there are other people, and they absorb the same thing. It creates certain vibe. But the origin of this is Harinam Sankirtan, when the devotees come together to chant. Here, yes.
I'm thinking of balance between our personal reading and then discussing also. How is it recommended?
At least 1 2 hours reading, and then it will be very easy and spontaneous to discuss. Then you spontaneously find some friend and you share with him what you have learned today and your own realizations. Very natural. And then with these friends you discuss as long as convenient. But there should be some very strong basis on the basis of which you have a discussion. Otherwise, it's just for a job. You call up a friend, and if you haven't read, haven't heard Shravan, then the kirtana will be yes. Actually, we're qualified to speak only if we read enough Shabda. Otherwise, if we didn't, then we'll just propagate nonsense. The mind will switch on automatically, and then he will give us some rubbish and we will start talking. So that's the qualification to speak, especially if you are connected to the internet and you type so many things there and so many people can read. Let's say you have a Facebook page with 5,000 friends. I don't think they allow more than 5,000. So that's why people have 5,000. Others they'll get more. So whatever you write there, not that everybody reads what you write, but some people will. So this actually influences the consciousness of the people. So unless you have something pure to present, then better don't speak much. The qualification. You have to read, associate. So Okay, so then this practice of bhakti yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of the spiritual master. No. This practice can help anyone rise to the level of love of God, and then he's sure of his progress into the spiritual kingdom of God. This practice of bhakti yoga under the rules and regulations with the direction of a spiritual master will surely bring one to the stage of the love of God. So Vaidhi what's the definition of Vaidhi? If you remember from the last year, Swami gave a definition of Vaidhi Bhakti. Yeah.
Engagement of the senses in the service of the Lord when we have no taste.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's true. And there's another element. Such a special type of engagement that has the potency to bring about raga. So the very definition of Vaidhi is already directed towards attaining of spontaneous taste. So it will happen if we perform it properly. Not because we will perform it in a perfect way, but because Krishna will be merciful. This is Krishna's nature. He's very merciful. So he will take pity on us if we whatever. Of course, it will happen when he decides, when he steps. 12.10. If you cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga, then just try to work for me. Because by working for me, you will come to the perfect stage. So here, somebody cannot practice the regulations of Bhakti Yoga. What does it mean? No practice.
Not enough faith.
Yes, that's a good point. Okay, this manifests in which way? Because people don't have faith, so then they don't follow the discipline, the schedule of sadhana. They don't get up early in the morning, they don't chant Hare Krishna necessarily, they don't go to Mongol.
Similar, we can say they have strong material desires, attachments.
Yeah, if you have strong material desires, very strong, then they don't leave much space for something else. Right? So then there is no time, there is no energy, there is no motivation for sadhana. Because sadhana, bhakti apparently doesn't fulfill this material desire, which is the opposite. People don't have time. All right, so then those unable to follow the rules and regulations should work for the Lord. Then what's the solution for them? You cannot follow, then at least whatever you do it for Krishna. Yat karoshi yat ashnasi yat dekhoshi dasi yat tapasasi kam yat kushma. This type of person, he may come to the temple and do some practical service, or he can give the results of his work. Either way. One who is not able even to practice the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga under the guidance of spiritual master can still be drawn to this perfectional stage by working for the Supreme Lord. How to do this work has already been explained in the 55th verse of the 11th chapter. So, footnote 14. My dear Arjuna, this is this verse. Mat karma krim, mat paramo, mat sangam. My dear Arjuna, he who engages in my pure devotional service, he's engaged in pure devotional service. Free from the contaminations of fruitive activities and mental speculation. He who works for me, who makes me the supreme goal of life, and who is friendly to every living being, he certainly comes to me. So here, he works for me, Krishna says. And ultimately, Krishna is the supreme goal, although he's not qualified right now. He knows, thank God, he's become a devotee, pure devotee, but right now, don't do it. And one should be also friendly. One should be sympathetic to the propagation of Krishna consciousness. there are many devotees who are engaged in the propagation of Krishna consciousness and they require help. So, even if one cannot directly practice the regulative principles of bhakti-yoga, he can try to help such work. Very practical. Just like not everyone is able to join the frontline soldiers due to different reasons, but he can help, can assist them. It's safer behind the line, but the war is won by logistics. This is very, usually people underestimate this aspect of warfare. It's so important. If the soldiers don't have enough food or munition or weapons or clothes, then they lose the battle. Somebody has to do these things. It's very extremely important. So nothing to despair. We shouldn't be depressed if we're in this position. It's very important. We all fight together with this war against Maya. So everyone's position is appreciated, respected, and very important. 12.11. If, however, you are unable to work in this consciousness for me, then try to act giving up results of your work and try to be self-situated. Those unable to work directly for the Lord may engage in pious work without attachment to the result. So Shilpa writes very clearly and purport. It may be that one is unable even to sympathize with the activities of Krishna consciousness because of social, familial, or religious considerations. So what that means? Or because of some other impediments. Can you give an example? One is unable to sympathize because of religious considerations.
So if somebody is in the family of non-devotees, can be not even adult, it can be studying or dependent on the parents, which are not favorable. So he
Right. So he
has
cannot.
very limited opportunities.
Yes, or he might be from a different religious background. So in his circle, it is frowned upon engagement in Krishna consciousness. People may think it's some weird cult or something. So, or let's say, wife is wants to be devoted, but the husband doesn't. So he wants meat, he wants to smoke, drink. So the wife is in a very delicate situation. So maybe not possible. It's different impediments. If we had one, I'm not sure I should say this openly. Anyway, sometimes like this, people come to the temple secretly from their parents. Let's say they are underage, so the parents should know. They should give permission, but they are very meaningful, so they come without asking, without telling them. So it's okay. If one attaches himself directly to the activities of Krishna consciousness, there may be objections from family members or so many other difficulties. So many other difficulties. Prabhupada says, for one who has such a problem, it is advised that he sacrifice the accumulated result of his activities to some good cause. So the idea here is that, okay, you cannot do it directly for Krishna because people are against. So you do it for some cause that people will be okay with. Give charity to, not directly to Krishna, but to somebody else. So that your, whatever, parents or husband, they are okay. They're not in your case. Still is something else.
If we consider charity in different modes, this would also only apply for mode of goodness or also others?
The best is goodness. Second best is passion. And then ignorance is not recommended. But at least goodness. Yeah. There is that. Such procedures are described in the Vedic rules. This is important, the Vedic rules, so that means Varnashram. Varnashram accommodates all these things. If you're not if you cannot engage in, because here, the first option, what is the first option that Krishna gives? Just fix your mind and being. So this is basically Bhagavad-gītā. Just hearing and chanting, you don't do anything else. Here, Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu, Smarana. So if this is not possible for you, if this is not our level, then Pancharatra Gita, worship the deities, and center everything around worship deities. And then if this is not possible, then you have to work for Krishna. And then directly or indirectly, and this includes already the Vedic regulation, because you'll be living outside somewhere. And then what regulates your life outside? Outside of the temple. In the temple, your life is regulated by Pancharatra, by Bhagavad-gītā Pancharatra. But outside the temple, then you need some guidance, and this is the Vedic. Prabhupada says the Vedic rules. So it is a for material life, but pious material life, connected to Krishna. But the devotees should be happy that Krishna provides this. There are many descriptions of sacrifices and special functions of punya, or special work in which the result of one's previous action may be applied. Thus one may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. State of knowledge means here there is a recommendation that you engage in some pious sattvic activity so that you may gradually become elevated to the state of knowledge. State of knowledge will mean that you become realized that you're not the body. So if you are aware, if you're conscious that you are not the body, then all these impediments for your direct engagement in Krishna consciousness will be eliminated, because they are based on your deep conviction that you're the body. Therefore, you take so seriously what your parents will say, for example, because you think I am the child of such and such persons. This is your identity. So if you are not so attached to this, then, in other words, by Naishkarmya, you acquire transcendental knowledge. This is the indirect way. Of course, you can chant also secretly. I had one period that I didn't want to chant openly in front of my parents. I was studying for my examinations in the law school, and I had a clicker. And actually, I was chanting. Then just went for a few weeks, and then that's too much. I want to be a devotee, you know. If you cannot take to this practice, then engage yourself in the cultivation of knowledge. Better than knowledge, however, is meditation, and better than meditation is renunciation and the fruits of action. For by such renunciation, one can attain peace of mind. One should adopt the direct process for attaining the supreme. In summary, to reach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the highest goal, there are two processes. The process, one process is by gradual development, and the other process is direct. So which one is the gradual development and which is the direct process?
Bhakti-yoga.
Yes. And the gradual one was just described now. If you cannot, if you're so attached to your false identity that you cannot engage direct, then at least do something indirect. Yes.
Regarding about 10 and 11, one is Daiva Varnashram and other is just Varnashram. Can we describe this?
If you cannot practice the relation to bhakti-yoga, then yes, you can say like this. Yes. Good point. Still, Varnashram should also be guided by at least your understanding. Because here we're talking about a devotee. who is just so conditioned that he lacks the confidence and strength to openly engage in devotional service. So he engages in Varnashrama, but he's by heart Krishna. So it's also Gaya Varnashrama, but he's too weak right now. So he has to strengthen his faith. And he needs some time. Devotional service in Krishna consciousness is the direct method. And the other method involves renouncing the fruits of one's activities. Then one can come to the stage of knowledge, then to the stage of meditation. So knowledge means jnana, meditation means dhyana, that means jnana and yoga. Okay. Then to the stage of understanding the super soul, so this is the Paramatma realization of the yogis, and then to the stage of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the long way. One may take either the step-by-step process or the direct path. So both are bona fide, but the direct process is not possible for everyone. Therefore, the indirect process is also good. See, so liberal. But as far as Bhagavad-gītā is concerned, it is the direct method that is stressed. Everyone is advised to take the direct method and surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So for us, it's always the direct method that is advised, because we are devotees. Only in some very special circumstances, so this indirect steps are recommended. But usually for devotees, you just have to engage in devotional service.
We say this method not practical for common people, Kali Yoga, and so many people. They cannot follow this method. Only one method, bhakti-yoga.
Yeah, that's also another point. Good point, because how on earth in Kali Yuga you will progress? First, imagine how. Okay, you meet the devotees when you're in your 20s, and then first you have to start. You don't even start bhakti. First, you have to start giving in charity, and then until you develop knowledge, and then this knowledge has to mature in meditation, and then you have to understand the super soul. How many lifetimes this will take? It's not practical. Therefore, but there is some provision for some people who are just so conditioned. Sometimes I heard spiritual masters, they offer some concessions. Like, okay, you get what to do. You have to cook meat for your husband. Wow, what to do? So just pray to Krishna and chant Hare Krishna as much as possible. Okay, 622. Established thus, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of great difficulty. The process of yoga should be followed in connection to the Lord. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. I don't know whether if you noticed, but by practicing yoga or pranayama, or in fact any type of regulated physical activity, let's say some exercise every day, after a while you start to become detached from the body. Although it is recommended for people who are very much attached to the body. This is the yogis, why they're doing all this asana, because they're attached to the body. But if you do it, it is made in such a way that at one point you start to observe your body, because every day you do the same thing. So it moves around and you observe. So kind of you start to become detached from you see it's a machine actually. And you need to take care of the machine so that it doesn't create too much problem. But or breathing exercise, same thing every day. It's machine, so it's interesting. So this indirect process, very process is very helpful. course, we prefer the direct one because it's faster and more easy and natural. This is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the super soul through transcendental mind and intelligence, without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the super self. So we are so busy with so many material thoughts and ideas and anxieties, and we hear the mind. We want to hear the material mind all the time. So this internal dialogue, people call this internal dialogue. The mind talks to us, so, and we are listening and sometimes replying. But if we, therefore, the yogis, what they try to do, they try to calm down the mind so that the mind becomes peaceful through mechanical exercises, and he doesn't talk too much. So when the mind becomes silent, then what happens? You can hear the super soul. That's unless you don't hear, it's too noisy. This animal, this crazy creature is just all the time. Therefore, they like to live in solitary places. They want to be very regulated. They eat less and breathe, and they try to not stop breathing, but while breathing also the mind is disturbed. So only when you don't breathe, then the mind becomes completely peaceful. So they're trying to do this so that they can hear the super soul. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of the Patanjali system. Some unauthorized commentators try to identify the individual soul, the super soul, and the monists think this is to be liberation. But they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga. There is an acceptance of transcendental pleasure in the Patanjali system. But the monists do not accept transcendental pleasure out of fear of jeopardizing the theory of oneness. Because if there is transcendental pleasure, that means there should be some relationship with somebody. This is the source of pleasure. Happiness. That means there is somebody that you love and he loves you. But the monists say that there is only one entity and there is no relationship. So there is no transcendental pleasure. There is only material pleasure. If anything is pleasurable, that means it must be Maya. Because, yeah.
Several times, I think, in the previous readings, we had that transcendental was connected with personal. In this meaning,
Transcendental is connected to personal. Yes, that's what we say.
But can it have also other meanings, like just not material? Ultimately, it is meant only to be personal.
You cannot escape the personhood, because Krishna is a person and we are persons too. So ultimately, everything is personal. There is only an illusion that there is something impersonal entity. It is not so much illusion, it is an immature understanding. Everything comes down to a person. Even in the material world, all these phenomena, they're personal. The sun, the moon, the directions, water, air, fire, demigods. Is this on the topic? Okay, well. And the duality of knowledge and knower is not accepted by the non-dualist. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure realized. But in this verse, transcendental pleasure realized through transcendental senses is accepted. And this is corroborated by Patanjali Muni, the famous exponent of the yoga system. The great sage declares in his Yoga Sutras 334, Purushartha Shunyanam Gunanam Pratiprasava Kaivalyam Svarupa Pratishta Vachiti Shakti. This Chiti Shakti, or internal potency, is transcendental. This is the point of contentment in the Mayavadis. They say that Brahman doesn't have Shaktis. They say that all these Shaktis are material. And in the ultimate sense, there is no Shaktis. It's just stripped from all Shaktis. Nothing personal. Purushartha means material religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and at the end, the attempt to become one with the Supreme. This oneness with the Supreme is called Kaivalyam by the monists. But also Bhagavatam uses this term Kaivalyam. And it is not a monistic Mayavad term, it is our term, Kaivalya. This is a verse from Bhagavatam. Adi Madhyavasanishu Vairagya Kyana Samitam Hari Lilakata Vitam Ritanandita Satsuram. Vast Aditiyam Tam Nishtam Kaivalyaika Prayojanam. Kaivalyaika, that means the ultimate goal of Bhagavatam is Kaivalya, which means pure devotional service. Kaivalya means Kevala Bhakti, not Kaivalya meaning Sayuji Mukti. But according to Patanjali, so they're taking these terms, Bhakti terms, and they're using them in their own perverted way, the Mayavadis. According to Patanjali, the Kaivalyam is an internal or transcendental potency by which the living entity becomes aware of his constitutional position. In the words of Lord Chaitanya, this state of affairs is called Chaitadhartana Marjanam, Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya 2012, or clearance of the impure mirror of the mind. This clearance is actually liberation, or Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapana. The theory of Nirvana, also preliminary, corresponds to this principle. In the Bhagavatam, 2:6, this is called Svarupana Vivastitihi. This is footnote 15. The merging of the living entity, along with his conditional living tendency, with the mystic lying down of the Mahavishnu, is called the winding up of the cosmic manifestation. Okay, so this is Nirodha. And liberation is the permanent situation of the form of the living entity after he gives up the changeable, gross, and subtle material bodies. So, in other words, liberation is when we acquire our original natural relationship with Krishna. And once this is established, that means Sthai Bhava. When we are aware of our Sthai Bhava with Krishna, then we will acquire, in the course of time, the corresponding and natural respective form that is most appropriate for this type of. So this is the liberation. Actually. Okay, so now lesson 10. So let's see, what is this Adhikarma all about? Because we are heading somewhere, but let's see where we're heading. Oops. Good work, okay. Salvation of knowledge or perfection of by mystic powers are all subordinate to the transcendental loving service of Godhead. So all these processes are subservient to bhakti. Okay, then lesson 10. Real knowledge of salvation is described in Bhagavad-gītā. 13, 8, 12. No, we have footnote here. This is opposed to the indirect and troublesome process followed by the impersonals discussed in lesson 9, verse 12.5. You remember this? Let's go back to it.
Question, how is this lesson connected with Satyakama?
The real knowledge of salvation is described in Bhagavad-gita because, let's read this 12.5 again. This is page 26. Let's go back and read. No, it's not 26, it's 25. Okay, for those whose minds are attached to the unmanifested impersonal feature of the Supreme, advancement is very troublesome. To make progress in that discipline is always difficult for those who are embodied. So here, this is the impersonal way of acquiring knowledge. It's very dry because there is no actual connection with the Supreme. They don't even believe that there is Supreme. And now this is contrasted to the real knowledge of salvation and the real salvation, the real liberation. How it is described personally by Krishna in Bhagavad-gītā, in the Bhakti Shastras. So therefore it is connected because here the Karma says that all these processes are they're subordinate to Bhakti. So here, the process of knowledge, it is shown how the process of acquiring real knowledge is possible only actually, but only the devotees can practice it properly. Nowadays they acquire some imperfect knowledge and then they have to fall down. So in this way. Okay, then footnote 16. This is opposed to the indirect and troublesome process followed by the impersonals discussed in lesson 9, verse 12.5. So why is this process, the impersonalists process, why it is troublesome? We discussed this last time. And ours is very easy nature. Why? Because
Artificial.
yes, artificial, but not artificial intelligence. Artificial, yes, it's unnatural. Why? Because
we are identifying with the body and something which is, let's say, another way, devotional service is also personal, same way like our condition.
it's easier to become to understand that Krishna is the supreme transcendental person and to become attached to him. It's more natural. It's more completely unnatural to try to meditate on something that is impersonal. Therefore, even what they do to alleviate the pain, they meditate on Krishna or Ganesh or Shiva or Durga. But they say it's ultimate illusion. Yes.
During my spiritual so-called quest, I came across the Mayavadis. I didn't know at the time what is it. But basically they were trying to do some meditation, and as a help they were doing deity worship in this way. So, and they called it bhakti-yoga even. So
Yes. If you ask them, they will say, "We're doing bhakti-yoga. We're bhakti-yogis." For these smartas, there are some Brahmins in India who also worship. They're worshiping Vishnu. But actually, in their hearts, they don't believe in Vishnu, that Vishnu is that he has Satchitananda, Ishvara Paramakrishna, Satchitananda, they don't believe in it. For them, it's just a stepping stone. to Nirguna Brahma. And they are, they have some followers. Amazing.
So one question regarding this connection, because both of them are personal. I mean, our conditioning and also transcendentally personal. So how to assure that we not consider Krishna to be also material?
Yeah. Well, therefore, Krishna's pastimes are difficult to understand for two reasons. And actually, it's one reason. They're difficult to understand because they're so much resemble the human pastime, materialistic pastimes. And because they so much resemble the materialistic pastimes. Because there's so much, they remind us about our own so-called pastimes. So how to, therefore, Srila Prabhupada in Krishna book, we spoke about this before. He gives part of the pastime, he describes it, and then in the next paragraph he makes sure that you understand that it is not material. That's his style of presenting Krishna book. He always makes sure that you don't misunderstand. And when we read acharyas, they don't necessarily do that because they expect that you know that you are already on a very high level, liberation. So they would not necessarily do it. But Prabhupada, he does it all the time. Therefore, his books are safe. They give you everything, the highest possible benediction, but at the same time, they make sure that you won't become sahaji or mayavadi. These are the two extremes. So, and also helps. It's helpful when we become excited about something to be a little doubtful about ourselves. Oh, maybe I understand. Some dosage of healthy benefit of doubt. It's always good for us because we are neophytes. So still we are trying to become established on a level of nishta. That's our general condition. And above nishta is ruchi, asakti, all these advanced levels. So we're trying to become nishta bhaktas. And nishta means engaged, please, 18 hours in devotion. And 6 hours is good. But for us, it's always good to keep some doubt. If you have some very firm opinion about something, maybe I'm wrong. Let me ask my guru. Let me ask the devotees. Let me read Bhagavatam. Okay, so in this commentary to 12.5, Srila Baladevi Vibhushan explains why the devotional process described in 13.8 to 12 is superior to what? To the process described in 12.5. Those whose minds are engaged in intense meditation of the Jivatma, which is very subtle in form, endure great difficulties. This is very troublesome process. Great difficulties. Even though the devotees also endure difficulty in withdrawing the senses from objects other than me and engaging in the very sanghas of bhakti, they do not experience the same suffering because of the dazzling attraction of my blissful form. So we have great help from Krishna. He's attracting us. He's giving us spiritual taste. He's giving us happiness. Mayavadis are on their own because they cannot expect that Krishna will give them something because they don't believe in Krishna. If you don't believe in Krishna, if I don't believe in you, I cannot go that you exist. I cannot come and ask for some favor because you don't exist. They are in such a position. Very difficult position. How has this great suffering, which is difficult to remove, arisen? The mind concentration on the invisible Atma becomes difficult for those who think they are their bodies. The living entities residing in bodies have been thinking that they are their bodies for a long period of time. How can they suddenly cultivate thoughts of being a small conscious particle, a concept that they have until now completely rejected? So that was very difficult. And the bhakti process is easier because you just substitute the illusion with the reality. Mayavadis, they substitute the illusion with the last line of Maya that they got. So it's illusion with illusion. This fruit, no, might be. I have a feeling that might be good. It's somewhere. Okay, so real knowledge of salvation is described in Bhagavad-gītā. Humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, constant and unalloyed devotion to me, aspiring to live in a solitary place, detachment from the general mass of people, accepting the importance of self-realization, and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All this I declare knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be, is ignorance. So here knowledge translates as virtues, as qualities, because when you have knowledge, the result of proper education is good character. If you have undergone proper training, but you have not developed good qualities, humility, non-violence, tolerance, then you haven't learned much. Maybe you have learned the skills and knowledge, but when you go into society, you have to interact with people. People don't care so much about knowledge and skills. They do, if they can use you to do something for them. But even if you're very knowledgeable and skillful, if you have a bad character, people usually don't want to deal with you. They will deal with you as much as necessary, and then they will give you your paycheck and tell you, okay, please go, because you didn't develop your character. And in the opposite case, when you have a good character, then people will generally forgive you that you're not very knowledgeable and skillful. They'll teach you. Even in the modern world, people say that in order to learn the skills for a job, between 6 months and 1 year, they'll teach you. But if you cannot take advantage of this teaching, then you cannot, because you don't have the proper qualities, the proper character to concentrate, to follow authority, to work in a team, then they will try to teach you, but you cannot be taught. Then after a few weeks, something will happen, and you'll get angry at your colleagues or at the boss, and then you will leave, or they'll kick you out, something like that. Therefore, all these qualities are the real knowledge. They're actually the proof that you are knowledgeable. Okay, this process of knowledge is not interaction of the field of activity, but it is the means to transcend this field. What's the meaning of this? That means that these qualities are not material, basically. Field of interaction of the field of activity refers to the body and the mind. So it is not something on a mental platform. It is coming from a spiritual platform. These are the qualities of the soul. This process of knowledge is sometimes misunderstood by less intelligent men as being the interaction of the field of activity. But actually, this is the real process of knowledge. If one accepts this process, then the possibility of approaching the absolute truth exists. This is not the interaction of the 24 elements as described before. This is actually the means to get out of the entanglement of those elements. So how do you get out of the entanglement of those elements? Through these qualities. How? For example, by humility, you're very humble in your dealings with the spiritual master. He's pleased and he blesses you transcendental knowledge, so that you get free of material bondage. If you're non-violent, Then you don't harm, you don't hurt other living entities, you don't commit offenses against devotees. If you're simple, that means you're very straightforward, and the Vaishnavas like you because they're confident in you. You don't tell lies. You don't say one thing but think about something else. So they'll like you to be around, and they'll share with you. They'll like you to become their friend, which is the greatest blessing. So all this approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness. When we are clean, then we can engage in devotional service, in arati, in puja, sacrifice. Steadiness. When we are steady, what happens when we are steady? Then we become established in nishta, and then we acquire ruchi. So these are the means to overcome the filth of the material body. This section, the embodied soul is entrapped by the body, which is a casing made of the 24 elements. And the process of knowledge, as described here, is the means to get out of it. Of all processes described above, the most important is which one? Taking up devotional service. Why? Because devotional service there is a verse from Bhagavatam which describes that by engagement in devotional service you acquire all the good qualities. And if you want to attain these qualities on our own, on their own, then we are mistaken. All these qualities have meaning and value if they're connected to Krishna. If they're on their own, they're just mundane manifestation of the mode of goodness. And this, since Krishna explains in Bhagavad-gītā that the gunas are always fighting for supremacy, it's just a matter of time when the mode of goodness will become polluted by rajas and tamas. And all these so-called good qualities that we are so proud of, they will turn into bad qualities because the gunas will change. We will commit mistake, we will commit samaparada. Krishna says in Gita that in the material world, every fire is covered by smoke and every endeavor is covered by mistakes. So sooner or later we will do something wrong, and good qualities will turn into bad qualities. This is when they are not connected to Krishna. When they are connected to Krishna, when Krishna has given us these good qualities, because He's the owner of them, then we have 50% choice. Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge.
Of all the descriptions of the process of knowledge, the most important point is described in the first line of the 11th verse. Maya chananya yogina bhaktir avyabicharini. The process of knowledge terminates in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord. So if one doesn't approach or is not able to approach the transcendental service of the Lord, then the other 19 items are of no particular value. But if one takes to devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, the other 19 items automatically develop within him. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana Sarvar Gunah Trasamas Sate Shurah. All the good qualities of knowledge develop in one who has attained the stage of devotional service. Continue. The beginning of knowledge is humility. beginning from practicing humility up to the point of realization of supreme truth, the absolute personality of God. This process is just like a staircase beginning from the ground floor and going up to the top floor. Now, the staircase, there are so many people who have reached the first floor, the second or the third floor, etc. But unless one reach the top floor, which is the understanding of Krishna, he is at a lower stage of knowledge. If anyone wants to compete with God and at the same time make advancement in spiritual knowledge, he will be frustrated. It is clearly stated that without humility, understanding is not truly possible. To think oneself God is most puffed up. Also, the living entity is always being kicked by the stringent laws of material nature. He still thinks I am God because of ignorance. The beginning of knowledge, therefore, is amanitva, humility. One should be humble and know that he is a subordinate to Supreme Lord. Due to rebellion against the Supreme Lord. One becomes a subordinate to natural nature. One must know and be convinced of this truth.
Advanced people are able to understand that and believe in the fact. Therefore, a great scientist similarly, all other advanced always need the Bhagavad-gītā also says Lesson 11. Everyone who wants a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, or even less than Shudra, must cooperate in this non-central world service. So, if you notice here, we go to the same notions as in the Siddhanta. First, the philosophical is established, and then the application. The application is always to work according to one's nature. Now we're going to talk about the rational. Okay.
1846. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work. One should perform his duties in connection to the Lord. Everyone should think that he is engaged in a particular type of occupation by Hrishikesha, the master of the senses, and by the result of the work in which one is engaged, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, should be worshipped. If one thinks always in this way in full Krishna consciousness, then by the grace of the Lord he becomes fully aware of everything. That is the perfection of life. The Lord says in Bhagavad-gītā 12:7, the Supreme Lord himself takes charge of delivering such a devotee. For those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engage in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Rita, for them I am the sweet deliverer from the ocean of them. level. That is the highest perfection of life. In whatever occupation one may be engaged, if it serves the Supreme Lord, he will achieve the highest perfection. Uh, 1847. It is better to engage in one's own occupation, even though one may perform it imperfectly, than to accept another occupation and perform it perfectly. Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never effective.
And I can perform my job, so that is wrong. So you're saying that there is something wrong.
Duties prescribed according to one's nature are never affected by self-direction. Everyone should be engaged according to the particular modes of nature he is applied. Every man should work for the purpose of Yagya or for Vishnu, Supreme Person in Godhead. Anything done for personal self-gratification is of course offended. The conclusion is that everyone should be engaged according to the particular mode of nature he has acquired, and he should decide to work only to serve the Supreme Cause of the Supreme Lord. 48. Every endeavor is covered by some thought, just as fire is covered by smoke. Therefore, one should not give up the work born of his nature and responsibility, even if such work is full of thought. When one performs his duties in connection to the Lord, all the facts are purified. One should not give up his natural occupation because there are some disturbing elements. Rather, one should be determined to serve the Supreme Lord by his occupational duty in Krishna consciousness. That is the perfectional point. When a particular type of occupation is performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord, all the defects in that particular occupation are purified. When the results of work are purified, when connected with devotional service, one becomes perfect in seeing the soul within, and that is self-realization. Let's say we come from some background that started like this. Lifestyle and place or something are living. So just by thinking is it purified or how we know that all this are unfavorable things. So
Somebody has done all this in his life, so he can just remember. Direct devotion service right now. This is not fast. Especially if you're already in the family.
Yeah.
But even if not, still. And can we actually, this nation can be engaged directly in practice? You can be free time
Somebody starts with, let's say, he's frustrated with material life, turns to something spiritual. He's searching for something spiritual. So in this process, he will give this. Because it makes sense. But he is not yet in a devotional sense.
Yes.
And then he is in the devotees.
Yes, so in this case, it is done with a lot of controls out of the not something superficial, not like whether now he has to go back, so to say, to this thing or not, it's also depends on so my so it's healthy. But sometimes
So many devotees from the temple get something. Yeah, get something.
this is actually very simple because it's from ground time. The train and some ground cherries, very tiny, even tiny minority can grow. When I ground cherries come, then we get more in this station. And for them, when cherries here, the task is here. Because it's more advanced from that ground cherry because ground cherry is very happy they can take care of themselves. You don't have to take care of other people. In other words, just take, it's like being a servant for good. When you do a servant for good, as ground cherry, then you realize my life doesn't belong to me. I can, I'll sleep whenever I can. I'll eat whenever I can. Whenever there is an opportunity, it's not about me, it's about my doing. So it's even anywhere. It's about somebody else. It's about service of the passion. So it's part of it. Right, so let's do this first. Alright. Where are we now?
1549. One who is self-controlled and unattached and who disregards all material enjoyments can obtain by practice of renunciation the highest perfect stage of freedom from reaction. Performance of the occupational duties in connection to the Lord is real renunciation. Real renunciation means that one should always think himself part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore think that he has no right to enjoy the result of his work. Since he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, the results of his work must be enjoyed by the Supreme Lord. This is actually Krishna consciousness. The person acting in Krishna consciousness is really a sannyasi, one in the ignorance of life. By such a mentality, one is satisfied because he is actually acting for the Supreme. Because he is not attached to anything material, he becomes accustomed to not taking pleasure in anything beyond the transcendental happiness derived from the service. Son of Kunti, learn from me how one who has achieved this perfection can attain to the supreme perfectional state. Brahman, the stage of highest knowledge, by acting in the way I shall now summarize. Summary of the process of self-realization. The Lord describes to Arjuna how one can achieve the highest perfectional stage simply by being engaged in his occupational duty, performing the duty for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One attains the supreme stage of Brahman simply by renouncing the result of his work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. It is the process of self-realization.
So, the summary of the process of self-realization is that we surrender to Krishna. That's a summary. And then he'll take care of everything. By renouncing the results of our work, of his work, for the satisfaction of Supreme Lord. Alright, and then, no, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is probably about Monday. We'll continue class in 12. Okay, stop here. Om Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Bhakti ki jai. I think I go.